Hey friends, so we're in Genesis chapter 7, and I want to say I'm a bit emotional thinking about this one. And let's just work through it and I'll share why. But chapter 7 kicks off in verse 1. It says, "Then the Lord said to Noah, 'Go into the ark, you and all your household, for I have seen that you are righteous before me in all this generation.'" And then when you skip down to verse 4, he says, "For in 7 days I will send rain on the earth 40 days and 40 nights, and every living thing that I have made I will blot out from the face of the ground." And listen to this. "And Noah did all that the Lord had commanded him." And if you skip down to verse 9, it also says, "He did all that as God had commanded Noah." And then if you skip down to verse 16, everyone went in as God had commanded him. Noah did. He kept the commandment of God. He did what the Lord told him to do. And there is no way that this could have been easy for him. Because, listen, if you go down to verse 6, Genesis 7:6, "Noah was 600 years old when the flood of waters came upon the earth. And Noah and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives with him went into the ark to escape the waters of the flood." 8 people in all. Noah and his wife, his 3 sons, and their 3 wives. 8 people out of everyone on the face of the earth. And when we're thinking about this, I want you to know some details here, because this, I didn't actually think about this detail and I had to go back and look at it. But look at this. It actually says in back in Genesis, I believe it's Genesis 5, when it's talking about, the descendants of Adam. When you jump over to almost the end of the chapter, but it says in verse 28, "When Lamech had lived 182 years, he fathered a son and called his name Noah, saying, 'Out of the ground the Lord has cursed, this one shall bring us relief from our work and from the painful toil of our hands.'" But now remember, he was 182 when he gave birth to Noah. And then it says that Lamech lived, after he had fathered Noah, 595 years. Now you'll note that in chapter 7, it says that Noah was actually, in verse 6, Noah was 600 years old when the flood waters came. 600. He was 500 when God gave him Seth and spoke to him about the flood. So during those 100 years, between when Moses is 500, around when he's 500 and when he's 600, was when he was building the ark. But this is just so important in my mind, because Lamech lived, after he fathered Noah, 595 years. That means he died when he was 777, but he died 5 years before the flood. 5 years before Noah's 600th year, when the flood came, which means that he would have been alive the majority of the time that Noah was building the ark. And we don't know if he was encouraging Noah, if he was telling him, "You're delusional, son. What are you doing? What are you trying to condemn everybody?" Because what we do know was that when the Lord came to Noah in chapter 6, it says that Noah was the only person on the face of the earth that found favor in the eyes of the Lord. Well, if he came to him when he was 500 and Lamech, his father, was still alive, what would that say about his father? What would that say? It also says too, listen, in Genesis 5, verse 30, Lamech lived after he fathered Noah 595 years and had other sons and daughters. That means that Noah would have had brothers and sisters who did not believe in what he was telling them, that God spoke to him. He would have had probably some nieces and nephews and cousins and aunts and uncles, and none of them believed him. What about his mother? This is a big one for me, thinking about this. Because typically back then, who outlived who? The husbands or the wives? Well, usually the husbands were older and they usually died before their wives. So if Lamech died only 5 years before that flood came, was his mom still alive? I don't know. It doesn't say. But we know that the only 8 people that went onto that ark were his 3 sons, their wives, and his wife. And guys, I don't know if you have families that, believe in Jesus and follow along, that you can talk about things of faith and God and encourage each other. Or maybe you come from a family where they think you're a lunatic and they want nothing to do with the God that you serve. And when you ask them to go to church at Easter or Christmas and you get all your hopes and your emotions up, they don't want to go. And you even feel it at times that if they do go, it's just to appease you. And you sit in that seat probably before them, hoping with all your heart and praying your heart out that the message will impact them and they'll come to Christ. And year after year, when they don't, it's like heartbreaking to you. Noah would have understood this in a deeper way than maybe we ever will. Because he did go onto that ark, and it says in Genesis 7, verse 11, in the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, on the 17th day of the month, on that day, all the fountains of the great deep burst forth, and the windows of heavens were opened, and rain fell upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. On the same day, on that same day, and his sons, Shem and Ham and Japheth, and Noah's wife, and the 3 wives of his sons with them entered the ark. Do you remember he had said in 7 days the rain is going to come, so get on. And they're saying that on the day that the rain started falling, they got on that boat. I wonder if we can maybe take the liberty to suggest that they were doing everything that they could to convince maybe his mom, for sure his brothers, his sisters, anyone that would listen. Listen, all of his 3 sons' wives, they had family. Those women would have had moms and dads and brothers and sisters pleading with them, just get on the boat. Just get on the boat. And they didn't. And if you read this story, once they get on there, it says that the Lord shut the door. They didn't pull it closed. I don't know that they could have on their own. Maybe there were people just kind of like laughing, looking at them. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if if they're literally standing there, looking out the door, seeing their loved ones, laughing, joking, mocking, and God starts to lift up that door as the rain starts to fall. And when that door is shut, no man was opening it. And those rains started flooding up and falling down. And you know, we can only hope that it was loud enough that they couldn't hear their loved ones banging on that ark. We can only hope that it was so loud coming down on the timber that they couldn't hear anything but the rain falling. But you gotta know that there were tears inside that ark. You gotta know that those husbands probably held their wives weeping. And it wasn't just for 40 days and 40 nights that they were in that ark. You'll do the math, you know, in this next chapter. But they were on that ark for 1 year and 10 days. 1 year and 10 days. And the grief that they would have experienced, whew, like that would have been intense. And the one thing that I was thinking about in line with these things is some verses about Jesus, some things that Jesus says. But listen, he says in Luke 14:26, if anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciples. What? Like, you're saying I need to hate my mother, my father, my brothers, my sisters, like my own children? But wait, you're the same Jesus that in Matthew 22, when questioned, hey, what's the greatest commandment? You say to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. This is the great and first commandment. And the second is like it, to love your neighbor as yourself. And then you go on, Jesus, and you say in John 13:34, a new commandment that I give you, that you must love one another as I have loved you. So it doesn't make sense, Jesus. You tell us that the great commandment and the new commandment is to love others like you have loved us. But then you say that we can't be your disciple if we hate our family? What do you mean? And this is what Jesus is saying, is not that we're to hate them. No, we are supposed to love our family so dearly. But in comparison to the love that we have for the Lord, that we have for the Father, that in comparison to how much we love him, that incredibly high and deep love that we have for our own family and our loved ones would seem like we hate them in comparison to how much we love the Lord. And this is what he's saying, is there going to be things that I call you to, that unless you love me, like intensely, and you deeply want to know me, there's no way you're going to be able to say yes to me. There's no way, unless your love for me is utmost. I want you to love your family. I want you to love them fearlessly. And husbands, love your wives, but listen, love me so much more. Love me so much more that it would even pale in comparison to how much you love me. And you know, and Jesus understood this. He understood this, guys. It says in Mark 3, listen, 31 through 35, listen, he says, it says, and his mother and his brothers, Jesus' mother and brothers came, and standing outside where Jesus was, it says they sent to him and called him. Like, we're here. Go and tell, you know, Mary or his brothers, go and tell Jesus we're here. And a crowd was sitting around Jesus, And they said to him, "Your mother and your brothers are outside seeking you." And Jesus answered them, ready for this? "Who are my mother and my brothers?" And looking around at those who sat around him, he said, "Here are my mother and my brothers. For whoever does the will of God, he is my brother and sister and mother." Like, people talk about that, right? Like, blood is thicker than water. Hey, but listen, when the water represents the Holy Spirit and being born of God, there's something that ties us to each other. That we can become family. And Jesus also knew, like, you can look at John 7:5 later, where Jesus even says of his brothers, "For even his own brothers did not believe in him." Not even his own brothers believed in him. Would that have hurt? For sure. Did they mock him? Probably. Did they question the things he was saying? Probably. Did that sting? No doubt. Yes, he's fully God, but he was fully man. And he loved, and he had his heart broken. Did you know that his father would have passed away somewhere along the lines? Jesus knows what it is to love his family and to lose family members. He knows this. And as the oldest brother in that family, his father Joseph, his mother Mary, and then the Bible does say he had 4 brothers and sisters, that when his father died, he was the oldest in the household. So his responsibility would have been to care for his mother, to take on the responsibilities of the men of the house, paying the bills, fixing the home. He would also have been responsible for finding husbands for his sisters. He took all that on, and he was a good son. And when it was time, when he was 30 years old, to go into ministry, that would not have been an easy thing for him. And his mother would have blessed him and let him go, but we also know that she followed pretty close along at different times, showing up along the way. But you got to know that when he says in Luke 14:26, "If anyone comes to me, does not hate his own father and mother, wife, children, brothers and sisters, yes, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple." Jesus understood this. He loved his brothers. He loved his sister. He loved his mother. And as he hung on the cross in John 19, he would have looked down and he would have seen his mother, who would have been a wreck with his best friend John, who was probably, I just always picture John just trying to like hold Mary up. She probably could barely stand watching her baby boy and the agony he was going through up on that cross. And can you just imagine John holding her, probably shaking, holding her. And Jesus looks down and says to his mother, "Woman, behold your son," referring to John. And John, looking at John from the cross and saying, "Behold your mom." Like, what's he saying? Take care of my mother. Take care of my mother. It's not John's responsibility. Where's his brothers? Where are his brothers? Not at the cross. Who stood there with his mother? Who cared for her like his own? John did. And it says that from that day, John took Mary and cared for her. That's family. And I don't know why I'm so emotional, but like, I know that some of you are trying to love God with all your heart, and you also love your family. And the thought of them not being with you in eternity one day, listen, we can do what we can, but we got to leave them with the Lord at a certain point and keep saying yes to him. Never stop praying, never stop believing, but never stop saying yes. He understands, and you can talk to him about these things.